What's happening? Welcome to the 24th floor. The Oklahoma City Thunder are kings of the NBA after winning Game 7 last night. The Daily Memphians Partha Padia and I will dive into Game 7, and Parth's going to give us his thoughts on revenue sharing for the Tigers and their potential move, or lack thereof, to the Pac-12. And we get our first look at updated renovation plans to Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium. Busy day on the 24th floor, and it starts now. Joining me on the show today, he is the Tigers beat writer for the Daily Memphian and all-around hoops head, hoops fanatic. Is my good friend Partha Padia. Partha, what's good with you, man?
My guy, what's up, bro?
Good. How's your summer been? I mean, I know things have been busy for you, but you've had some time off. You've been relaxing.
It's been good, man. It's actually been a lot more relaxed than previous off seasons. If you recall that first off season I was here, that would have been 2023. We had the Mikey Williams shooting case going on. You had the DeAndre Williams eligibility case. Last off season, you had just staff turnover, obviously came late in the off season. So this is a little bit of change of pace. There's been stuff, but not necessarily chaos, which is good.
Yeah, no
for
chaos.
All involved, for everybody involved.
Exactly, no chaos for everybody involved. We like a relaxing off season, right? That's kind of how it should be.
We do.
But we got to talk about these NBA finals, and it was kind of chaotic for that. So let's talk about the big idea for today. The big idea, of course, comes from the NBA Finals. Game 7 last night. It was the thrill of victory. It was the agony of defeat. Oklahoma City Thunder beat the Indiana Pacers 103-91 in Game 7 to claim the franchise's first NBA championship since they moved from Seattle to OKC. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander led the way as he had all year. 29 points, 12 assists, 5 rebounds, 2 blocks, and a steal en route to Finals MVP.
Feels amazing. So much weight off my shoulders, so much stress relieved. Like, no matter what, like, you go into every night wanting to win, and sometimes it just doesn't go your way. And tonight could have been one of those nights, but we found a way. I'm so proud of this group. I wouldn't have rather done it with any other group in the world. It feels good to be a champion.
No moral victories, obviously, but deflated, but proud of everything we've accomplished. There's no award for second place, obviously, so everyone's upset. But hats off to OKC. They were the better team today.
And while the Thunder were perhaps the best team all year, I don't think that's hard to question. This game was definitely marred by the first quarter injury to Tyrese Haliburton. He went down, needed help getting off the floor from a trainer and a teammate. His father confirmed to the broadcast team later on that the injury is to Haliburton's right Achilles tendon. We don't know if that is a tear. We don't know if that is a rupture. Either way you look at it, it doesn't look great for Tyrese Haliburton.
No.
But I don't think you can really question how good OKC was all year. And them winning Game 7 did kind of feel like, I won't say inevitable,
a culmination
of the
season.
season. Yeah. What did you think about what we saw in Game 7?
I mean, I was hoping, when we had Game 7, I was very excited, and I was hoping for a down-to-the-wire type game. But as soon as Tyrese goes down in that first quarter, I know you and I watched it together, and you immediately said that doesn't look good. His face said it all, obviously. Then his father said to Lisa Salters that it was an Achilles tear or rupture or whatever it may be, and he wasn't going to be back. At that point, you kind of knew that though Indiana...
The
scales were tipped, right? Yeah. And though Indiana kept kind of toe-to-toe for, 3/4 of that game, you just felt it. You felt that at some point in the fourth quarter, and you described it well, right? You said that 9-0 run was coming, and what happened? That 9-0 run did come in the fourth quarter, and that's all she wrote.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy because we were watching it, and it's like, bang, three-pointer. Okay, they're up 3. Bang, three-pointer. Okay, they're up 6. Bang, three-pointer. I said, that might be a wrap. That might be,
And it was a wrap.
We had seen Indiana do it so many times where they had these big comebacks throughout the postseason, and they did it one time to OKC as well. But that just felt like without Tyrese Haliburton, it was going to be on the road in an environment like that. It just felt like it was almost too insurmountable to overcome, and ultimately that was what it was. But I think the Tyrese injury, to me, says like, okay, we can't take away from what Oklahoma City had done all year. They were a 60-plus win team this year. They were the number 1 team in the West for the second year in a row. And then they come back and they just they swept the Grizzlies here in Memphis, of course, and then they just kind of ran through the rest of the playoffs. And it really wasn't until they went to 7 with the Nuggets, but when they got to this Pacers series, it kind of felt like, okay, this is their series to lose. And I will give the Pacers all the credit in the world because everybody was doubting them.
Yes.
Kind of felt like throughout the entirety of their playoff run. But this was a series and a season that was just Oklahoma City's to lose. They won like the third most games in the entirety of a season than anybody else in the NBA, behind only I believe it was the Bulls and I think
the Warriors,
and the
Warriors.
Yeah, who didn't win a championship that year.
Exactly.
So,
shout out LeBron James.
Shout out LeBron James. So shout out to what OKC was able to do this year. I think what they did was incredible. And then you think about they're still really, really young. They drafted Chet and Jalen Williams. J-Dub in the same year, 2022, I want to say.
Yep.
And 3 years later, they're champs. Shout out to Sam Presti. You got to tip the cap to the guy.
Yeah. And you're kind of waiting for him to cash in on those assets, right? If you're watching Sam Presti, through the years, he's been kind of a hoarder of draft picks, of assets,
They're
of
scary
all this stuff.
They're scary.
And it's like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Is he going to miss his window? And sure enough, he knew what he was doing. That, like he said in a previous interview, when they got back to the playoffs, it wasn't going to be a return. It was going to be an arrival, right? Mm-hmm. And they sure enough arrived last night.
Yeah, I think if you're an OKC fan, this has to be one of those, it feels like it all paid off, right?
Yes.
You watch the team come to OKC from Seattle.
Yep.
They had those phenomenal temes with James Harden and KD and Russell Westbrook, and of course KD gets traded to the Rockets on the same day, which I thought was insane. But it felt like it almost had to have come full circle for them to have kind of been at the finish line so many times. What do you think about the career arc, the franchise arc that OKC has had over the last decade?
It's been special to watch, just as a basketball fan. Obviously, I was in 9th grade, I believe, when they made it to the finals and went up against that LeBron James-led Miami Heat team, and that didn't turn out well for Durant and company. And then they kind of decide, okay, we got to blow this thing up. We can't afford to pay a young James Harden coming off the bench because he's going to be a star, right? So Presti kind of saw that before we all saw it. James Harden stardom, trades him to Houston for assets, right? That's where it kind of starts. You're accumulating assets. Then Kevin Durant leaves you high and dry. You go with Westbrook. You ride with him until that trade happens to where he ends up in Houston for some other assets, I believe. And it kind of starts there, right? Where you start drafting wisely, you start accumulating capital, assets, whatever it may be. And then this was kind of, like you said, not the finale, of course, because the franchise still exists, but this was the reward for all those years. This is the process, but done better, right? Done competently.
Yeah, done competently, right?
Go.
And shout out to our guy Joel Embiid, the process. I thought this was kind of incredible. And I think you love the way this team was built, right? Because it wasn't necessarily the acquisition of a bunch of free agents to make this happen. A lot of these guys are homegrown, specifically in their big three, right? Jim Holmgren and J-Dub. And then you did get SGA in that trade for the Clippers, which felt like it was peanuts now in the grand scheme of things. And Paul George is...
That didn't really pan out for
Didn't pan out for LA, didn't pan out for really anybody, right?
Yeah.
But, he was the nexus of all these things to happen. I think what's really cool about this is kind of seeing how good SGA was throughout the entirety of this. He's, I think, the only player to win the scoring title, regular season MVP, conference finals MVP, and then finals MVP, which is nobody else has done that, and you're kind of surprised almost, nobody else has done that before.
Well, the conference MVP is a new deal,
It is a new thing. That's fair. That is a new thing.
Yeah.
But it's
to get all four is special, man.
Right. And nobody's done it before, and I think that sets you apart, puts you in a legendary air.
No doubt.
And we don't know what SGA's final career is going to look like yet.
No, we don't.
But from a single season, man, he did the dang thing.
Yeah, the team did the dang thing. He did the dang thing, and this team and SGA are going to go down in basketball history books. Obviously, etched in Thunder lore and NBA lore forever.
What do you think about what happened to Tyrese Haliburton? We knew he had the calf strain kind of coming into those last couple of games. Game 6 seemed like he was fine, right? He played through it. And then Game 7, you watched it pop. What was your kind of reaction to just kind of seeing what happened to him in that first quarter and then what the Pacers were able to do moving forward after that?
Yeah, it was disappointing as a basketball fan. I had no rooting interest, obviously, in that game. I'm not a fan of the Thunder or the Pacers, but I wanted to see a down-to-the-wire, exciting, potentially overtime game, in which that wasn't going to happen once Tyrese Haliburton went down. It was inevitable that the Thunder would eventually pull away, but I think what was also inevitable is the injury. And that's sad to say, but how many times do we see this where there's a a minor calf strain or a minor something with a leg, and a player in that moment on that stage tries to play through it, right, in a finals, and there's been so much wear and tear that, you know, eventually something else takes a toll.
Yeah.
And in this case, it was the Achilles, because when you're trying to favor different parts of your leg to avoid the calf or whatever you're doing, eventually you kind of pay that price, and that's what happened, I thought.
It felt like it was such a routine play too, right? I mean,
It really was,
He
yeah.
he caught the ball. He gives a jab step. He goes to, I think it's to his left,
Yep.
and you could see it. And I think that's one of the scary things about like those Achilles, those calf injuries too, that we've seen with so many stars now. It's like we saw it with KD, right? We saw it with Jason Tatum in this playoff series,
And Damian Lillard, right?
and Damian
It's the same
Lillard,
playoff series.
Damian
The
Lillard
same
as
playoff,
well.
yeah.
And it's like you can literally see it pop. And it's different from like other injuries, I think, where you can like you kind of speculating.
Yes.
But it's like everybody anywhere can watch that video and be like, that's where it is, right there. And
Yeah.
it's nasty. We were talking about the most gruesome injuries that we had ever like seen, like
Yeah.
watching it live, right? We talked about Russ
Paul
Smith,
George.
Paul George as well, and that certainly Halliburton's leg injury is not nearly the same.
No, there was no bone that came
No,
out of
yeah,
the
yeah.
man's
You're not
leg, no.
seeing, blood and bone, all that
Thankfully.
kind of stuff.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
to see a man's like calf pop in his leg, just it don't feel right.
It makes you squirm
It
a
makes-
little bit.
I feel like I was like scratching my calf the rest of the night.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out.
Like, is my Achilles in place? Like, come on.
Yeah.
no doubt.
But I think it was just sad. And then I think what the Pacers did the rest of that game was really admirable, right? I mean, you lose your leader who had been so clutch throughout the entirety of the playoffs, especially. And you're up one at halftime.
Yeah.
Right? And you're like, okay, they're going to hang around in this game. I think you needed more from Pascal Siakam. I don't
For
remember
sure.
exactly what he had to end the game, but you didn't really get enough from him. TJ McConnell holding it down for all us brothers under 6 feet. He had a pretty solid game. And there was arguments that he could be, finals MVP somehow if
they
the Pacers would have won.
Yeah.
I think what you had to appreciate about this Pacers team was like they were the underdogs from start to finish. And ultimately, like at some point, the Cinderella run has to end.
Yep.
But for you to get all the way to Game 7 of an
All
NBA
to the
Finals,
fourth quarter.
So
right?
the fourth
And still
quarter,
say,
yeah.
Maybe they'll pull it off,
They were up. The Thunder were up 13 going into the fourth. So you kind of had that feeling like I don't know.
Okay, so maybe not the start of the fourth.
Yeah. But I mean, the Pacers so many times had made those big comebacks that I
Yes.
think you felt confident
That it wasn't over.
that it was not over. And I mean, and it got up to 20, I think, and they whittled it back down to 10 points.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, here it comes.
Even I said that. I think I turned to you with 3 minutes and 30 seconds left. They were down all of a sudden 20 points.
We're listening to the people at the bar,
goes
right?
to a 10-point lead, right? And you're
Yeah,
like, oh,
yeah.
wait, can they do it again?
Yeah, and
They could
ultimately
not.
just kind of didn't work out that way. But hey, man, to the winners go the spoils. We got to give all the credit in the world to the Oklahoma City Thunder because they are the champions, and so we'll see if they can do it again. Is this the start of a dynasty part in your mind? Do you think?
No, we always do this,
We
right?
always do
We
this.
always do this. I'm going to say no because we
Okay.
said this about the Thunder, or not the Thunder. I'm sorry, the Nuggets a few years back with Jokic and Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr. Like, will this be the start of a dynasty? And start of a really good run, but dynasty, I'm not ready to go there just yet. What about you?
Got to get probably one more championship before we really
have those
the
discussions.
dynasty
Yes.
conversation.
Yes.
But what I will say is the way their roster is built, they are primed to come back and do this again.
Yeah.
This is the reality. The East, we don't really know what the East is going to look like. It's going to be in flux with Boston Celtics and the injury to
And
Jason
Giannis,
Tatum.
where he moves. Yeah.
We don't know where Giannis is going to go.
Exactly.
And the West just keeps getting more stacked every
Man.
day, especially after that Kevin Durant trade. So we'll have to see what goes on in the West. What I do know is the Grizzlies are going to have to make some moves. Otherwise, it could get scary.
Yeah, they are not fine in the West.
Oh, they're not-
As currently constructed,
Fine in
not
the
fine.
West. We will see. All right, Parr's not going anywhere. When we come back, we hear from Tigers athletic director Ed Scott about how they're going to share revenue with their student athletes and whether or not a move to the Pac-12 is in the works. Stick around.
On Weather Impact Alert Days, stay informed, prepared, and connected with ABC 24 and 24 Plus. Coverage that alerts you to what's coming and how it will impact you. Watch extended weather coverage on 24 Plus. The 24 Plus TV app. Streaming 24/7. Local news from the team you trust on your time.
Rain showers through the day today, and we're starting.
Track how the weather will impact your day.
Rain coming in tonight into tomorrow.
Extended, continuous coverage of breaking news, live from the scene. Go deeper with in-depth interviews and exclusive reporting. All the local news you need, live or on demand. 24 Plus. Complete coverage of your local news, weather, and more.
Here comes our first batch of rain.
Some severe thunderstorms and even several tornado warnings.
I think the bigger issue is going to be the wind gusts. So you start getting some branches knocked around. You could definitely see some power outages today. The storms could pack a punch.
It's not just the thunderstorms, it's the fact that this low pressure is so strong.
How big that storm system was.
On Weather Impact Alert Days, stream extended coverage on 24 Plus. Download on your TV and watch for free. When news breaks, watch 24 Plus. See the story as it's happening. Be on the scene, faster than ever before. Live updates from the team you trust. Stream breaking news on 24 Plus. Download free on your TV now.
Welcome back to the 24th floor. Here with my guy, Parth Padia from the Daily Memphian. We got to talk about these Tigers. On Friday, Memphis Athletic Director Ed Scott met with media to give an update on the renovations to Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium, but he also got into some other topics, including revenue sharing, which has been a hot topic across the NCAA. The House versus NCAA settlement was finalized Friday, allowing schools to share up to $20.5 million in revenue with their student athletes per year. Ed Scott says 20.5 is a little lofty for the Tigers, but also did not say exactly how much money Memphis was working with. What he did say is that they'll be competitive with schools like Kansas in basketball, and they'll be even more so or have more money to work with in football specifically.
The only reason I'm not giving out the number is because it's proprietary. Once I give out the number, people are going to benchmark against us, right? And I don't need them doing that. That's not what I'm about. I'm worried about what we do, and I know that we're going to compete well in that space.
All right, so Parth, you've been following this pretty closely.
Yep.
Obviously, you keep up with Tigers basketball as the beat writer. That Kansas number was between $4.5 million and $5.5 million. Shout out to the Kansas Star, I believe that was the
Kansas City
article.
Star. My boy Shreyas Laddha. Yep.
Okay, so that's according to their AD, straight from the horse's mouth. If Memphis is playing around with that kind of money, what does this mean for them in terms of competing in the NCAA and the AAC and moving forward?
Yeah, I think to Ed Scott's point, it kind of kills the speculation of Memphis not being able to compete with the Blue Bloods, the bluest of the Blue Bloods, Kansas in this case, when it comes to revenue share. What it doesn't kind of explain or shine light on is that extra money that schools like Kansas, that Duke, that North Carolina, those schools have, because they're hitting the 20.5, right?
Right.
So what's happening then is after you hit that 20.5, they're bringing in collective money. Yes, that money has to run through Deloitte or a third party that examines the validity of the deals. Like, is this actual NIL or is this pay for play? Like, it can't be pay for play anymore according to the NCAA, right? Is what they're saying. But since Memphis is not hitting that 20.5 threshold, like Ed Scott told us on, I believe, Friday, the collectives will be dissolved. And what will happen is that Memphis is going to work on getting an in-house collective of sorts, its own NIL.
Which in some ways they were kind of already doing, right? I mean, they were working in partnership with
901 Fund, with
901
Bluff City
Fund, right, which are technically outside, but those were created specifically to help the Tigers anyway, right?
For sure. But now, like, all the ins and outs of the operation will be underneath the umbrella, right, of Memphis Athletics. And I think the reason that's notable is because, like we said, like Ed Scott said even, the schools like Kansas, Duke, North Carolinas of the world, like they're hitting that 20.5 threshold, then they're having money on top of that from the collectives. Memphis, whatever number Ed Scott and company are at, whether that be 11, 12, 13, like they're still working to make up that ground. Does that make sense?
Right.
So I think that's where that gap happens. So it's about, how much money are they going to generate from not only revenue sharing, but also from this new in-house collective. How much is that going to add on top of that, specifically for the men's basketball program at Memphis?
Do you have any idea what that number has looked like or could look like?
Well, in the past, I know, like, for example, last year's roster was around that 5.5 million mark, which was excellent, right? That was very competitive across the board for Memphis, even with the Power Fives, Power Fours, whatever you want to call them. But we've seen this offseason everybody kind of either catch up or surpass that threshold. Like, there's been transfer portal inflation is what I like to call it.
Yeah,
where
no kidding.
Players that were going for $1 million last offseason are going for $3 million, right? And we're seeing that across the board. So it remains to be seen, I'd say, how much Memphis can generate with this new in-house collective and how that will affect the bottom line when it comes to the money divvied out to men's basketball.
When you look at the House versus NCAA settlement in its totality, for Ed Scott, I mean, he kind of said he feels like this will be a good space for their university to operate in, specifically for their case. Do you kind of agree with like the level of school that Memphis is? Does this House versus settlement case work in their favor to you, or is it something that will be kind of remains to be seen, or could it work against them, do you think?
Yeah, I think just reading between the lines of his comments when he said that quote
It
about...
felt like he was very confident.
Yeah.
At the same time, though, Ed Scott could sell ice to a polar bear. So
He could, man. He's a smooth operator.
Great salesman.
He's a smooth operator. Shout out Ed. But I think what he was trying to say is, like, with regulation, right? Like, with everybody playing on a level playing field as far as the rules, the parameters, the guidelines, like, yes, Memphis in that world can compete, but when this is the wild, wild west, like Ed Scott said, when stuff's being done under the table, like, Memphis may not be able to go toe-to-toe with schools in that setting.
Yeah, I think you make a good point. I think what we know is the under the table kind of stuff. It probably is still happening, right?
Oh, it's gonna continue to happen, yes.
What NIL brought was like, okay, we're bringing a lot of that under the table stuff above board, or at least it's out in the open.
Yep.
But with the NCAA kind of stepping in here with the settlement again, it's like, okay, we have guardrails again. And while guardrails may be good in the grand scheme of things, it also allows for, okay, like maybe we don't want to operate with the guardrails. We go under the table.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's talk about kind of the other side of this, which was the Pac-12. We talked to Ed Scott again, and he mentioned that a lot of folks have been speculating that they were going to the Pac-12 or that we should have gone to the Pac-12 the first time, all that good kind of stuff. Check this soundbite out, what he had to say about his social media attention.
Scared, like I got one yesterday, scared money don't make money. I don't have an offer from the Pac-12, so it's not scared money. I have no money. So how am I going to make a decision on that, right? I told y'all before, and I'll tell you again. When we get an offer, I will stand up in front of you and be accountable for whatever decision I make as the athletic director in conjunction with the president and the board of trustees. But until we get an offer, there's nothing for me to talk about. I checked my email knowing I was going to get that question today just before I left, and I did not see any breaking news on the ticker that the Pac-12 announced their media deal. So for me, my position hasn't changed.
Ed Scott reminds me a lot of my dad. Like, that is such a thing he would have done. He's like, let me have all my facts in a row, all my ducks in a row, so I know exactly what I can and can't tell you. And it's going to be a little tongue-in-cheek with whatever he says. But this isn't the first time we've gotten a very direct response from him, right, about these Pac-12 rumors. Last time we talked to him about this specifically was like September of last year. So what do you think this says about the very clear line that he's drawn between Memphis and the Pac-12, or really any moving around between conferences?
Yeah, I think it was the Pete Thamel report, right? Pete Thamel of ESPN reported a couple weeks back, or a week or so back, that Memphis had been, or not Memphis, Pac-12 officials and Big East officials, that's key there, had been discussing adding Memphis as a football member to Pac-12, and then every other sport, including men's basketball, to the Big East. Well, Ed Scott's saying, hey, look at where that was sourced from. It wasn't anybody on our side, which is Memphis, right? It was Pac-12 speaking. It was the Big East speaking about potentially doing that. But there have been no substantive conversations, using Ed Scott's words, about that actually happening, anytime soon, right? And even Thamel's report, to give Pete Thamel some credit, like, he made it very clear that those discussions would not continue or become substantive until the 27-28 calendar year, academic year rather.
Right, and I think too, what Ed Scott's pointing out the most here is like, we didn't use the soundbite, but he said it pretty emphatically. He's like, I'm trying to get us to the Pac-12. I'm trying to get us to the Power Four, one of the Power Four conferences. He said that is our first goal, clearly, unequivocally. Anything else is kind of secondary, although he's going to field all offers, field phone calls, and that kind of thing. I like what he's been saying from that arena, in that we're not going to settle for something less just for the sake of moving, right?
Yeah.
We are looking for the best deal possible. He understands, as far as money and everything like that goes, that it's probably going to be in one of those Power Four conferences, whether it is the ACC, the Big 12, most likely, if it's going to be one of those four. I agree with him that at the same time, it's like, hey man, y'all in the Pac-12 don't even necessarily have your ducks in a row. You don't have a TV media deal.
Well, they announced it this morning.
Did they announce it this morning?
CBS will.
Oh, well, shout out to CBS.
Yes,
Well, so you tell me, what we looking like?
Yes, I was doing some other stuff this morning, so I didn't get a chance to delve into the numbers or anything, but I saw the Pac-12 did put out a press release announcing their media rights deal. Yes, so now they're in full-fledged pursuit of that, 8th full member. Could that be Memphis? I don't know.
What do you think about the possibility of moving to the Pac-12? Is it something you think Memphis should do? And if so, yes. If not, why not?
I think if they can work it out where football only goes to the Pac-12 and the Olympic sports and men's basketball goes to the Big East or the ACC, some other conference, right? Because the toll of traveling to the West for women's soccer, for baseball, for men's soccer, for track and field, that's a lot, man. It's a lot of costs, too. You're adding costs. Like, it may be the media rights deal is comparable or a little bit more, but how much cost are you incurring also with those moves? Yeah. That's what you got to look at.
Yeah, I think the constant travel out west would really not be to the Tigers' favor at all, especially when you're looking at those Olympic sports. They already don't draw in money, right? So
exactly.
It's basically siphoning money out to constantly be flying out west. You're talking about 3-4 hour flights, layovers weekly, and they're not flying private, right?
No, it's not. They're not on the PJ with Penny Hardaway.
They're not on the jet with Penny Hardaway. So to kind of bring it back towards Tigers basketball, when you look at what the House versus NCAA settlement does now, you get 2 more extra scholarships. Do you foresee Penny using those in order to bring in a couple more players?
We actually asked him that on Tuesday night. It was after the Tigers on Tour event in Lakeland outside of the Owner's Box Sports Grill. And he said that at first, when he started this thing, he was thinking, okay, if the House settlement passes, he's going to use all 15. But now, with the way the guys are gelling, with what he sees in front of him, he may only add 1 or 2 more. He may not hit that 15 threshold. He said 13 or 14 is probably the likelihood here.
Yeah,
and they've got 12 already. Remember that.
They do have 12 already. And I think what we know about Penny, what he said before, is like he wants everybody or as many people as possible to be in June.
Yes.
Right. And
yes.
so these guys, we have had about a month to practice together, to be around each other, and there's a certain level of chemistry that's already there.
For sure.
And I think you're probably adding at the margins here a little bit more.
Yeah, you're not adding a needle mover unless Dane Danger gets that final decision for the NCAA, gets cleared and is added to the roster.
Yeah, and all we hear from that camp is just that no news is good news kind of thing. We don't know if that's going to happen.
Folks are hopeful, but you know how these things go.
Okay, so when you look at this roster as it stands right now, what's your assessment? What do you think about what Penny's put together?
It's a lot of what ifs, man. Like what ifs across the board. Like last year, you had a lot of talent, as he's always had. But you also, with that talent, had kind of guys who had been there, done that, right? Tyrese Hunter had been in the NCAA tournament and won. PJ Haggerty, yes, he had done it at Tulsa, but he had done it. He had been one of the nation's best
high-level
scorers.
scorer. You knew what you were getting, more or less.
Exactly. Colby Rogers, 41%, I believe, career three-point shooter, coveted by Alabama, Kansas. Musa Cisse, elite shot blocker. So you had guys who kind of fit cleanly into roles and had done those roles at power levels in the tournament or elsewhere. This year, you've got a lot of question marks. You got Sincere Parker, who is a bucket, but he's a bucket in 18, 19-minute spurts. Can he do it on a 35, 32-minute per game basis?
And we know Penny's going to play his guys.
Exactly.
Penny he's kind of like Tom Thibodeau like that. Like he's going to play those starters in a lot of minutes, and so you got to be able to prove that you can do it at a high level,
no doubt,
for a long period.
No
of time.
doubt, and the list goes on and on, right? Aaron Bradshaw, top 5 recruit out of high school 2 years ago, but he hasn't panned out yet. He didn't pan out at Kentucky. Not at Ohio State. Can Penny get the best out of Aaron Bradshaw? Can Penny get the best out of Doug McDaniel, who took a step back last year, a little bit at Kansas State, with his efficiency and his shot making and stuff. So kind of you're hoping for some guys to revert back to form of what they were 2 seasons ago. You're hoping for some guys to find themselves for the first time. Yeah. Like, can this all happen in order for Memphis to reach its highest potential? I guess that kind of remains to be seen a little bit.
I think Aaron Bradshaw is kind of the most interesting to me for those, because we saw it with Dane Danger.
Yeah,
right. He had 2-3 seasons where he really didn't do much of anything. You can see the body type. You can see. I mean, I'm sure Penny's able to see his footwork and things like that. And then when Dane got to Memphis is really where he unlocked some level of his game that had kind of been hiding in there.
Yeah.
I think you're kind of wondering, all right, can Penny do the same with an Aaron Bradshaw who is 7'1", 7'2", right?
Yeah,
He's
different
gonna be a
type
big
of
body in the
player.
middle.
Kind of more of a face-up big rather than back-to-basket. He's 7'1", 235, something like that. Pretty skinny guy. But can Penny kind of tap into his potential as well? Yeah.
All right. So we'll have to see. Keep up with Parth, the beat writer for the Tigers basketball for the Daily Memphian. He is the guy that will keep you informed about these Tigers throughout the entirety of the year. Parth, I appreciate you coming on,
Thanks so much.
Of course. And we'll have to bring you back. We're going to come back. We're going to take a little break. We got to get into the stadium renovations that Ed Scott revealed on Friday. And we're going to pay homage to a Memphis legend who is no longer with us as of this weekend. Stay around.
On Weather Impact Alert Days, stay informed, prepared, and connected with ABC 24 and 24 Plus. Coverage that alerts you to what's coming and how it will impact you. Watch extended weather coverage on 24 Plus. The 24 Plus TV app. Streaming 24/7. Local news from the team you trust on your time.
Rain showers through the day today, and we're starting.
Track how the weather will impact your day.
Rain coming in tonight into tomorrow.
Extended, continuous coverage of breaking news, live from the scene. Go deeper with in-depth interviews and exclusive reporting. All the local news you need, live or on demand. 24 Plus, complete coverage of your local news, weather, and more.
Here comes our first batch of rain.
Some severe thunderstorms and even several tornado warnings.
I think the bigger issue is going to be the wind gusts. So you start getting some branches knocked around. You could definitely see some power outages today. Those storms could pack a punch.
It's not just the thunderstorms, it's the fact that this low pressure is so strong.
It's how big that storm system was.
On Weather Impact Alert Days, stream extended coverage on 24 Plus. Download on your TV and watch for free. When news breaks, watch 24 Plus. See the story as it's happening. Be on the scene faster than ever before. Live updates from the team you trust. Stream breaking news on 24 Plus. Download free on your TV now.
Morant and Kool-Aid announced a collaboration on his Ja 2s, the Ja 2 Kool-Aid colorway, also known as the Mixed Berries colorway. Morant gifted pairs of that colorway to the Jet Academy at the Nike EYBL AAU tournament at the Memphis Sports and Events Center this weekend. But they are not the only ones. Drew Hill was also gifted a pair of Ja 2 Mixed Berries.
This is by far the best promotional item that has ever been sent.
Go ahead and bring them out. Let's bring them out. Let's see what we.
So first of all, in the top, we gotta appreciate the oh yeah.
Oh
here.
yeah.
And I also want to say to Kool-Aid, by the way, I hadn't drank Kool-Aid in like 15 years. After these showed up, I went. They put some packets in here.
Packs? Yeah,
I went and made Kool-Aid, and it was just as delicious as it was when I was younger.
You obviously are a Melrose alum yourself. What would you say about the talent from the track side of things that can come out of Memphis? We talk so much about the basketball talent that comes out of this town, but from a track perspective, what do you see as you do this year after year?
Actually, we have 2 gold medalists out of Melrose. My teammate Sheila Eccles was the one that gave Flojo the baton in 1988. We were teammates at Melrose. And then Kennedy McKinley is a boxer. So to be able to have 3 Olympic gold medalists, we all walked the halls at the same time, along with a now NBA champion and a couple of Super Bowl champions. And so we're like, hey, we're the home of the champions for real. You know, we produce stars.
And
you know, it's just an honor to say these are my friends that I grew up with.
The first thing I thought about when I heard that was, I wanted to ask, how much time has Stephen A. spent realistically in Memphis? You know, did you come down for a game and hop a flight right after, or have you spent actual time? Do you know people in Memphis? That was my initial thought. What was your initial thought about just him himself making that comment?
Yeah, he wasn't really relatable to the city, and exactly what you said. You know, maybe he hasn't been around because a lot of Southerners in this part, you know, are a lot of rich, you know, loving type people. You know, we put our arms around anybody who comes to this city. I've been so many places, you know, around the country, and you know, there's not hospitality like it is in Memphis. So, you know, of course, you know, when you hear that initially, if you're from Memphis, if you're raising a family in Memphis, it's going to be a little offensive.
Nobody really expected him to be what he has become on this team, and that is one of the Iron Men. Quite frankly, he has played in all 79 games, and he started in 74 of them. And so when you have a guy like that, he's been nothing but dependable pretty much all year. And when you have a guy who's dependable pretty much all year, you've got to find folks to fill in his space. Jalen has been arguably the best wing defender on the team the entirety of the year. He's had so many games this season where he has been tasked with defending the best player on the team, or the best perimeter player on the other team. He's had some phenomenal defensive performances, shutting down the likes of Anthony Edwards, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry. And even when they've had really good games, they still had to contend with Jalen being in their hip pocket.
I wanted Michael Jordan to come. I wanted Scottie and them to come. You know, they was winning championships in my town. It'd have been great for them to come pass out toys and turkeys and things, but they didn't do it. Not saying now that it ain't a reason why I should, because they not from where I'm from, so it's on me.
Welcome back. Tigers fans are patiently waiting for the completion of renovations to the home of the Tigers, that is one Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium. On Friday, the U of M provided a big update about what their home will look like if fans can wait it out for just one more season. Memphis Athletic Director Dr. Ed Scott and the Tigers splurged on a couple of projects to Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium, but he assures us it won't affect kickoff for the fall of 2026.
We felt that we would be able to complete it in the timeline by adding the tunnel and the kitchen and taking out phase 3.
The kitchen being an on-site suspended kitchen in the renovated west tower of the stadium, the first of its kind in the stadium's history. The tunnel on the north side was redeveloped to better accommodate tractor trailers and thus make it easier for things like concerts.
The new iteration of what we can do with this stadium. And then on top of it, it showed me that we can work with the city under difficult circumstances. Me being new as the AD, and then Mayor Young being new.
The new West Tower will feature 6 levels, including a number of different suite boxes and a party plaza, and a 4,000-foot-long scoreboard. The elevated price tag is $226.5 million, of which $201 million has already been raised. This year in particular has been good to the Tigers' pockets.
We've been able to raise over 30 million this year. We're almost at 31 million. And if we close a couple more of these gifts, we will eclipse the largest fundraising record in a single year in the history of Memphis athletics.
Scott doesn't expect to make profit in the first year or two, but hopes the extra events the stadium will be capable of could provide future revenue.
We just think that if we're not looking at this as additional ways to bring people to campus and make money, then we're missing the mark on it. We're going to be holding an asset that we know is losing money to say we own a football stadium.
Yeah, that stadium looks beautiful. And of course, a huge reason those renovations are even happening is because of the generous donation of FedEx founder Fred Smith, who passed away at the age of 80 on Saturday. Remarks and condolences to the Smith family have been pouring in from Memphis city leaders to local businesses to sports teams here in the city. ABC 24's Shakina Davis reports on the economic legacy Smith left behind.
A visionary has left this earth.
Fred Smith was 80 years old. Born in Mississippi in 1944, he earned his undergraduate degree from Yale and founded Federal Express in 1973. The company, now known as FedEx, grew into an $87.7 billion global corporation. He created thousands of jobs, not just in Memphis, but around the world.
Employed my dad for a long time, helped put me through school and support our family. And also gave me opportunities when I finished school to work as a carrier and experience that life and make money.
Provided them opportunities and networks that they would have never been afforded, changed the trajectory of families, and also made Memphis one of the, obviously the distribution capital of the world, so it's kind of work that absolutely cannot be negated.
Smith's impact went far beyond business. He was heavily involved in the Memphis community. Condolences have poured in from local organizations, Tennessee leaders, professional sports teams, and national figures. Kermit Moore, president of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People Memphis branch, says Smith will be remembered for his innovation and his contributions to the community.
Mr. Smith believed in diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's why so many people of color have been leaders and VPs in the organization.
In a statement, FedEx CEO Rod Subramaniam says Smith was more than his titles. He was the heart and soul of FedEx, its PSP culture, values, integrity, and spirit. He was a mentor to many and a source of inspiration to all, end quote.
FedEx has provided something great for the city, and that's Fred Smith's legacy that he began, and I feel like it'll continue as long as the corporation wants it to.
And as remarks continue to pour in, this is from the Grizzlies owner, Robert Pera. Fred Smith has been a driving force in this Memphis community since day one, and his endless contributions as a civil leader and corporate citizen are a part of an incredible legacy that will be remembered in our community forever. He will be deeply missed. Tigers athletic director Ed Scott said in part, Fred was more than a visionary businessman. He was an icon and servant leader whose impact on the Memphis community is immeasurable. Without his foresight and extraordinary generosity, neither Memphis athletics nor the city of Memphis would be what they are today. Rest in peace to a Memphis legend. That is Fred Smith. We're going to take a break and we'll be right back.
On weather impact alert days, stay informed, prepared, and connected with ABC 24 and 24 Plus. Coverage that alerts you to what's coming and how it will impact you. Watch extended weather coverage on 24 Plus. The 24 Plus TV app. Streaming 24/7. Local news from the team you trust on your time.
Rain showers through the day today, and we're starting.
Track how the weather will impact your day.
Rain coming in tonight into tomorrow.
Extended, continuous coverage of breaking news, live from the scene. Go deeper with in-depth interviews and exclusive reporting. All the local news you need, live or on demand. 24 Plus, complete coverage of your local news, weather, and more.
Here comes our first batch of rain.
Some severe thunderstorms and even several tornado warnings.
I think the bigger issue is going to be the wind gusts. So you start getting some branches knocked around. You could definitely see some power outages today. The storms could pack a punch.
It's not just the thunderstorms, it's the fact that this low pressure is so strong.
It's how big that storm system was.
On weather impact alert days, stream extended coverage on 24 Plus. Download on your TV and watch for free. When news breaks, watch 24 Plus. See the story as it's happening. Be on the scene faster than ever before. Live updates from the team you trust. Stream breaking news on 24 Plus. Download free on your TV now.
The best thing I saw this week comes from Kevin Durant, who rocked the NBA world before Game 7 of the Finals by getting traded from the Suns to the Houston Rockets. He, quote-unquote, found out on the stage at Fanatics Fest while being interviewed by Taylor Rooks. I'm looking at this man's face in this video. That is the face of a man who knew exactly what was going on, knew exactly where he was going, knew exactly how much money he was spending to command, and is in no way shocked by these developments that everyone else is clearly losing their minds about. You ain't slick. Never change, KD. Never change. That will do it for today's episode of The 24th Floor. Thanks to our guest, Partha Padia, for joining us on the show today. Special thanks to Rich Denson, Jared Robinson, and Leanna Davis for making this thing pop. We'll be back on Thursday, fresh off the NBA draft. But for now, we are out of here. See you later.
Continue with us and watch free now on the 24 Plus app everywhere you stream.